Okay. And so she's not coming from that space. This is more of an individual making it worse. Okay. Um, but she's blessed so many people in multiple areas of the finance. And so I've had Sean. I want to give you a moment, Shonda, to just kind of maybe introduce yourself, and then we'll kind of just kind of go from there. Is that cool? Because I don't want to say the wrong thing.
You are totally fine. So I am truly honored and very thankful to be here with you all this afternoon. And I pray that our conversation is really robust, but also very impactful for all of your viewers, all of your listeners. And of course, we'll make sure that everyone has an invitation to a couple of different resources that we'll make available. But just to kind of give you guys a little bit about my story and then obviously my passion. I'm 42 years old now, but at the age of 27, I met with my first financial advisor. And so what I realized is that that individual couldn't really relate to my needs. They couldn't relate to the fact that I didn't have a high net worth nor a high net income. And so as a result of that, I felt like he kind of patted me on my head and said, hey, good luck. He did not have any intentions around helping me. So 2 years later, fast forward, I was really serious about being financially responsible and secure. And real quick, the reason why is because I saw my parents do something that was very, very strong and had a lasting impact and effect. I saw them at the kitchen table working through their budget, and they invited me to sit down at the table and write out checks. However, some years later, I also saw them hand me a pot and say, Ashaunda, heat up some hot water on the stove. This is how you're gonna have to take a hot bath for like the next week.
Okay.
So those things stuck with me, right? So at 29 now, I'm sitting down with my second financial advisor, and he talked so much, you all, I felt like I was Charlie Brown listening to his mother. But he did help me at least establish a Roth IRA. But what he didn't do was ask me what my vision, values, and goals were. Like, it was just, hey, this is a recommendation. But I didn't have an affinity towards it. So I didn't continue it I attended Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University course. I didn't attend one. I was so serious about understanding the tips. Right. I attended two. Okay. Mm-hmm. But what I realized was that the tips were great.
Okay.
Right? The strategies were significant.
Okay.
But I didn't have anybody helping me to really identify my blind spots.
Right.
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 And so I just said, you know what? And it wasn't really me. It was that internal quiet voice. And it was like God said to me, Ashaunda, if you don't see it, be it.
That's good.
I have a passion.
Ooh, that's a whole word right there. Ooh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have a passion particularly with helping progressive men who are in affluent spaces to dominate in their finances and financial plan. But over the course of 12 years, particularly the last 4 where I've provided holistic financial planning, I mean, probably 80% women, 60% women. Marketing is towards men just because I just have this unique belief that I can help more men to minimize their financial losses and set them up for true financial stability and freedom. So let's go
to that, and that's awesome because that's purpose talk right there. And Charles, I think you kind of felt something too when with the whole. But I want to throw this out there because a lot of times as men we don't want to move into seeking advisory, whether it's about our relationships, whether it's about our finances. We've more been built to just I can do it myself, or it's been working for me thus far, even though it hasn't been. If you really look at it, it ain't been, and it could be so much better. And I think that's one of the things I can start off by saying is that once I started working with you, I saw you identified the blind spots, and some of them blind spots, I was like, how did I not see that? You know? And so I just I love the fact of how you said that, identifying the blind spots. I think that's one of the biggest pieces. I don't know, Charles, what do you think? Like a lot of times as men, we're not trying to get our advisory the way that we need to, and finances is such a huge area. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Like I think where men are at a disadvantage is that whole macho attitude of I'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same concept that you see with, driving directions in certain men. Like, I'll figure it out, and
That's a good analogy.
You end up 2 hours out of the way because you don't want to look to your partner. You don't want to look to the woman that's beside you that's saying, we're going the wrong way.
Yeah, hey, listen, I've done this, but I think that's huge to say that, because whether it's directions in a car or whether it's finance, like sometimes we need to stop right now. And even in this space where we have more time to actually identify blind spots, some of us need to call a meeting and say, we're going the wrong way. I think that's great. No, Charles, I didn't mean to cut you off. That was good. That way you.
No. It's absolute. It's the ability to be to understand that in order for me to be a leader,
mm-hmm.
I have to understand as a man
mm-hmm.
that the Lord has graced me with a helper for a reason, and has graced me with being connected with people who have strengths that I don't have.
Mm.
And being humble enough to be able to say, you know what? Finances is my blind spot.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Help me out with
Alexis.
Help me out with my emotional spending or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Help me with a long-term wealth plan
Mm-hmm.
that's gonna go past me generations.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute, Shonda, he's jumping into your topics already, Shonda. He's jumping into your topics.
Certain men have that issue.
Wait, did y'all hear me?
I love it. Keep running with it. You're making my job easier. You're kind of going in and out, but I can still make out what you're saying.
But hey, so first of all, Alexis, what's going on, man? You all right? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys just fine.
Okay, cool.
Hello, Alexis. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Doing amazing like you.
Good.
Hey, look, so we getting on into this money talk real quick, Alexis. You know what I'm saying? So you walk in there, huh?
That's why I got my glasses on. Anytime
Okay.
I'm talking about money, I have to go and grab my glasses.
That's that intellectual look, huh?
I know that's right.
Alexis in Miami.
Right,
Yeah.
that's right.
Mentally,
Listen,
I am.
I need to get my background change on. I didn't get, you know what I'm saying? Like, for real, I need to. And I got the green background too, for real.
Yeah,
I need to
you
switch that up.
change your background. You know that.
Yeah, I tried to do the little light bulb things. They was all over the place. I said, forget it. Uh-oh.
Who has their drink except for me? I need.
It's because of your processor.
Uh-huh. Hey, so you know what, Shonda, he was kind of going into a direction that I didn't want to jump in front of you with regard to what are some maybe some tips or whatever case may be. I don't know, some things that to kind of shift our mindset about money and wealth and things of that nature. What are some of the ways that we want to turn around, call that meeting and say, hey, I'm going in the wrong direction, as Charles said. What's the next space that we need to walk in?
So I think a couple of things. I think there's got to be a change with the conversation within ourselves.
Okay.
And when that happens first, then there will be a change with the behaviors that we exhibit.
Okay.
That way we can begin establishing sustainable success. And so 2 things that I've come to understand in regard to how we think about money. And a lot of people throw this term around quite a bit, and they really don't know what it truly means and what it means first and foremost. And a gentleman helped me to understand this. I did not come up with this on my own. I was probably still in my 20s and seeking help and seeking guidance. And the word principles for him kind of translated into the word pillars. What are certain philosophical pillars that you believed in? And so anyway, principles means that these are fundamental truths that serve as the foundation for a system of beliefs and behaviors. So I do want to say that again, fundamental truths, right, that serve as for a system of beliefs and behaviors. And I think when we begin to understand that that's applicable to every aspect of our life, right? But when we really hone in on the financial piece, since that's what we're highlighting today, then you'll realize that just like jumping off of a 17-foot building, there's the principle of gravity.
Mm-hmm. What you say? My connection get a little slow
Racking
every now.
up bad debt.
Okay.
Right. So the first thing is understanding that there are certain financial principles, and you guys will be able to find that in my book, Wealth Over Riches: 10 Principles to Shift from Looking Rich to Building Wealth Habits. So shameless plug, but I'm
okay. No, there's no shame. And now
Plug it.
so you better get your plug.
Plug it.
Let that land with you real quick. But I also believe that it comes from, you know, what have you told yourself in regards to how you relate to money, right?
Okay.
So it's interesting. Would you guys believe that money does have an impact on happiness?
Come on, that the household is different. I don't care what nobody says. The household be different. Hey, listen, you saving marriages right now.
Right. So it's a joy when you feel like you can get when you get that unexpected bonus at work. Draw up to 100 qualified or non-qualified retirement plans just based on the new regulations. Or when you make a sale that's a big ticket item, or you sell a stock that, you know, you took a huge risk in and it doubled or tripled in value.
Right.
That delivers a rush, right?
Yes.
And so we have to assess our physiological responses to money, but also understand our philosophical beliefs about capital. So I tell people all the time, listen, it's important to realize that money in your brain are very seductive, or I should say money has a seductive nature towards your brain. There's literally a match that what happens to our bodies, or I should say it matches what happens to our bodies when we began to think about love and sex. So
there is it like a dopamine effect or whatever? I mean, I think a big check does bring some dopamine. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and say that. But closing deals, that does bring a dopamine. Okay, but I think that
listen, and a lot of it, well, research from absolutely.
Wait, there was a gap in there. I couldn't hear everything you said. You said research shows what?
No. I was about to go into that, but you were saying something, so I wanted to give space for you.
Oh no, go ahead. I don't know what it was, the time delay in the internet. Go ahead.
Okay, no, I was just going to reiterate that research from behavioral economists and neuroscientists have confirmed that it can be difficult to remain rational when it comes to money management, the use of debt, savings, and investment behavior. So that word is powerful. It's difficult for us to be rational. That's not meaning that we should lean into that with an excuse, but it's real. And then if you tap on top of that, among our African American culture, where we've dealt with PTSD, we've dealt with disparity, we've dealt with opportunities, and we deal with a foreshortened sense of future. Like, I don't know if my future is going to be here for me because so many of my friends, I've seen them killed along the way, right? So I definitely want to make sure that people, like I said, purchase the book for the principles, for some of the fundamentals, to have that mindset shift. But the realities are that we have to pay very close attention to how we think about money, and then ask ourselves the question, is this serving me? So
let me throw something out there. And I think that because what I'm hearing a lot now about couples trying to, I guess, recreate this thing and put this thing back together. But I actually want to take a moment, I guess, and dial back to in the unmarried phase, right? And maybe some habits that if you were to speak to some of maybe the singles that are out there, whatever case may be, and I would say, let's say, for example, Alexis has her budget that she has right now, right? And Alexis, you can speak to maybe how you do whatever you do, or Charles, you have your budget, so you guys have yourselves. And then in order to, I guess, the mind shift that goes during that time of what they should be doing before you move into, I guess, the married space. You know, I don't know. That thought just came to my mind because right now they're making decisions for themselves, and then down the road they got to focus on making decisions with somebody else.
Did Alexis want to lean into that, or did you want me to just?
What question were you asking? I'm sorry, I wasn't clear because
No, I was just speaking of I guess the habits that people form, I guess, in the single space, or maybe some of the things that you do financially, or Charles, that you do financially, or how do you prepare yourself in this space or whatever. I don't,
I mean, I think that it's really important as best you can to, we talked about this on one of our podcasts before, is take care of your business first. Your finances, I feel like if you show an effort that, hey, as a single person, I've done what I needed to pay my debt, showed that it was important to me. So when I partner with someone, they already kind of see that I've taken some steps to, if I perhaps had some issues with credit, that I did my part and I'm not going into a situation unresponsible. And I think that's a problem, because if I'm dating someone and you have not taken care of your business, we're speaking two different languages, because it's like you're asking, especially when you're talking marriage, you're on a journey to where now we're talking marriage. And so your situation is now my situation. And why am I going to put so much energy towards something that you didn't even handle when you were single? Now you're looking to me to kind of help pay off some of your debt. And I just think it's like ridiculous that people don't spend time while they're single to clean up the mess that they may have made in their early 20s. Like we've all been there. I personally have understood the importance of credit at a very young age. I think I opened my first revolving account and I made payments on time and did all the things that I learned from my mother, actually, just watching her make some mistakes. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to start early and I'm going to do what I need to do. So I did the research. I understood everything that it meant as far as making those payments on time and things like that. I knew how it would impact if I didn't take care of my business at a young age. So it's like I speak that early into dating just to see if it's something that person is also equally passionate about, because maybe it's not of value to them, and it's like they don't care about credit. And if they don't care about credit, problem number one, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole with someone who doesn't have the same values as I do, for one. And financially, I feel like that should be at the core. That should be a conversation that you should be comfortable with having with the person that you're talking about marrying.
And we're not really taught a lot about. Go ahead, Charles. Charles, you about to say something? That's going to freeze up.
No, I mean, personally, as a man,
I can hear you, Charles.
Can you hear me? Oh, okay, cool. I was saying, personally, as a man, for me, especially post-divorce, getting married at 21 and then divorced at 23, I developed the attitude of needing less, and eliminating that feeling of attempting to impress, like actually having it and not looking like I have it. And I think that that's been a big issue. That's been a big issue with the people that surrounded as far as like associates with young men that are around. Everybody is driving the Hellcat and they're driving so savory and wearing the Balenciaga sneakers, but you don't have anything. Like, you have nothing. But you have on a 200 life of me. It literally blows my mind. And so I think it was awesome at an early age, because my mother my mother is a savant financially. I mean, a crazy. I mean, she's been pushing budget on me since I was a teenager, and her credit is my mother's credit is outstanding. You know what I'm saying?
Immaculate.
So my mom is always, you know, my mom has been very, very just, she's been pivotal. She's played a pivotal role in the way developed and grown as a man, and then have been blessed in so many different areas to live very comfortably at now 30. And I want to get better. You know, I want to be at a better place. And so I feel like one of the main issues for men who are of all ages is trying to look like you're able to cover.
Charles, if I can, I want to interject on that and really lean into that, because that's the premise of my book, the 10 principles to shift from looking rich to building wealth habits. I'm not even talking about just wealth itself. That's in book number 2, right? But if we don't begin to shift the mindset, and here parents have displayed various tips, strategies, what to do, what not to do. I believe that we can, and I think Elam and I were about this one, it's just as important to go from experiential learning into observational learning, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Right? And so we've learned quite a bit. And Alexis, I heard you say this about your mom, what you learned, what you took away. And one of the things that you said was you learned what not to do as well. And I think those two things are equally important. Listen, our parents did the best they could with what they know, what they had. Let's just keep it real, right? So versus condemning, complaining, we're not going to do that. We're just going to take, and so this ties into one of my tips. Let's take an admittance of ourselves, right? And take responsibility for what we are doing and how we're thinking and what we're doing. That's number one. We can always self-identify our glaring blind spots. Would y'all agree with that?
Absolutely.
I know when I've eaten too much over the week.
Right.
And haven't trimmed down some of the
my
carb intake. I recognize that, right? I admit to it, I own it. And I think what happens there is once we can identify that, just to start, is to okay, I'm sorry, I see your message. I just wanted to make sure I adhere to it. I want to make sure that we commit to working on one or two of those areas for like the next 21 days, right? They say it takes between 21 and 30 days to create a new habit. Don't focus on everything. Take a snippet, one piece of the pie, and figure out how can you better improve that area, right? And then the last piece on that is just really track your success. You know, I recently recommitted to my financial weight loss, and I'm not even big, right? It's just, I know where I like to be. I know how I like to look. I know that I don't want to revamp my wardrobe, right? And there's a couple of fly outfits that's still in there once this post-corona thing happens. That I want to make sure I don't look snug and tug. I want to look comfortable. So I have to really track where I am today, take inventory, but then just make sure that I am looking at the progressive changes, right, over time. So if that helps.
Can y'all hear me? This is better.
Looks
okay, no. Hey, listen, I was in transition, so I was just letting y'all go just then.
Welcome back.
Yes. Hey, so let me ask you a question, Shonda. So over the past, I guess, couple of weeks, there's been, what is the trend that you might be seeing with regard to, I'm sorry, I want to actually back up for a second, because something that Alexis said earlier, I felt like that was very important when she was saying that, okay, if she sees finances in one way, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe the other person, they might not understand credit or know about it, whatever case it be. How do you, considering that a lot of us were not taught fiscal responsibility and we kind of were baptism by fire type situation, what would you say to couples that are trying to transition? One person is just willy-nilly with the money and the other person's trying to be more tactical, particularly in where we are right now. We don't even have time to play no more. So
Right.
Yeah.
how does that shift happen? I mean,
so let me take you guys back a little bit and then come forward with that. So my parents used to be and still are in some regards marital counselors, right? And particularly they played in the premarital space. So when you can identify as an individual, right, what is your financial love language?
Financial love language. Them love languages keep on coming back up, boy, I tell you.
Love language. then you'll be able to better articulate that inside of hopefully premarital, counseling or conversations, even if it's not counseling specifically, which then can help transcend and translate over into, your union. But with that said, I think those financial love languages, they're gonna tell you
I
about
didn't
your
know
behaviors
that.
just based on the
That's
words.
a great point. I've
right?
never looked at it that way, because there is a such thing as financial, love languages. Some people feel they're showing that they care for you by spending money.
Yes.
Others are showing, listen, I'm cleaning up my credit. I am saving money.
Yes.
I'm doing this for us, right? And then it's like, those are two different languages.
Absolutely, because it all ties back to our financial value system.
Yeah.
Right? And by understanding our value system, by understanding our behaviors and our words, then literally couples can improve that communication and establish a collective financial value system. Notice what I said, collective financial value system, right? I will share with you, like I just brought on a new client, and it's been interesting. And I heard him say something that landed with me. I'm always learning from my clients. I never come to the conversation knowing it all. He said, my wife and I, we have a biannual State of the Union. a biannual State of the Household meeting.
That's good.
And it always includes our financials, our goals around it. Where are we? It's check-in points, right? And so you have that individual who's a saver, to Alexis' point. For them, financial security is usually the primary concern for people who speak the dominant language of saving. Right? The saver primarily saves money because they like to see their money grow like a strong tree. And then it also helps them to feel like they're protecting themselves and their family from hardships. And emergencies, right? So I think it's valuable, or I should say vital, for us to understand, for example, a saver, when you're talking to them, what you may want to say is, look, you're the best at saving us money. Can you help me find the best deal on a big screen TV so we can stay within our budget?
Boom.
So the same way we speak our love language in regards to quality time, touch, acts of service, all of that, then we have
come on, speak my language now. Come on, I can jump back in the conversation now. All right,
of that is important. Then the giver. Let's talk about the giver. These are people who speak from that philanthropic heart, right? And for most givers, giving is just really an expression of their love, right? They give their time, they give their money, they give their resources to really focus on helping people who are in need. So, I mean, givers should be cautious, if they find that they're giving out of an act of insecurity in exchange for like an emotional connection or to be liked. But I think the best way to really communicate with givers is just to praise them for, giving from their spirit. Spirit. So one example for a giver that you may want to say is, listen, you have such a wonderful heart of giving. Let's find some more ways to give where it'll be a bigger impact.
Oh, wait. So what you're saying is, this is good now. This is good. So what you're saying is, as you understand a person's love language, you can utilize that to help push them in the direction that helps, because maybe they understand that part, but the financial piece is not. So you take the recipe for the love and you kind of bleed it over into the finance. Come on, Shonda, come on.
Yeah. So let's talk about
That's good. That's real
too,
tactical right there.
because listen, a lot of my men clients or male clients, right? They're huge on investing. I have men who will not save a dime, but they're going to invest every dime. Think about it. They won't, because saving and investing, first of all, are distinctly different. Okay. So men will take their last, invest it in their business, because that's the lion's share of what they're passionate about. They feel like they can depend on that more so than the stock market.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Okay.
So for my investors, they speak about relative risks, and they enjoy watching their money grow or their businesses grow, right? They like to see the investments in the market. They like to see retirement investments grow. They like their business opportunities, scaling and expanding. They invest in their education, and they may invest in their team, right? So the best way to communicate with investors is just to discuss transactions or opportunities as investments, right? And I think that when you can also then begin to share the potential return on those investments, it helps to pique their interest. So for example, you may want to say to an investor, hey, listen, we could make some great contacts from our business or for our business if we invest $2,000 in attending this conference. Okay. Right? Let's say it's a marriage conference. This might be a great way. This is so sad, right? Well, this might be a great strategy for a woman to use. Go ahead. Get a strategy. You got to give them the house. Because true to form. There you go. And then let's talk about our savers, because Lord knows we got savers. Spenders, excuse me. We have some spenders in the house. Our spenders, Jesus, help. This is where I needed prayer in my relationships of the past. But spending deals directly with the pleasure principle, right? Whether the spending is for someone else or whether the spending is for themselves, they typically find ultimate pleasure in just spending money. And usually it's on stuff. So, spenders can be rebellious when they feel like they're financially deprived or restricted. Let's be honest, right? And the best way to communicate with a spender is, first, guys, we cannot judge. We cannot criticize. We cannot condemn. You cannot judge? Okay, hold on. So you got people in a whole house together and you tell them they spend nothing wrong, they cannot judge. Come on now. That's a lot. That's a lot. Right? Whew. So here's my question to you all. How do you point out an area of concern without it landing on the listener's ear as judgment?
I think personally, you find the asset in the proclivity.
Ooh, see, you coming with the word. Go ahead.
I know. Listen, I don't have my dictionary handy.
Okay, Mr. TIP.
Go ahead. I think so. If I'm an investor / saver,
yeah,
and the person that I'm with is a spender,
yes,
they're in my life to help me enjoy what I have built.
Okay.
So I would come from the angle of,
I see where you're going.
You get what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to come from the angle of, you're a spender. You're in my life to help me enjoy what we put aside for our future. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to look at you as a nuisance. I'm going to encourage you for us to put together your ability to enjoy what we have and my ability to invest and save for the future, and see how we can have heaven on earth when you put both of those together. Because if you put and enjoyment together, you'll have a blast.
That takes a lot of upfront self-worth, knowing where you are. That's a lot of upfront work of you knowing yourself first. But the blessing of that is that if you have a person that walks into a relationship with that type of understanding of themselves, they're able to partner with somebody and look for that same attribute so then they can walk forward. Because what you just said sounds real good, but that's like two people who know themselves individually financially.
But it's not only that, right? Because if I have let's say as a man and my woman is a spender, everything, the only way that I'm going to it's about making somebody feel safe and valuable.
Okay.
So if I let you know that your spending habits can be an asset to our family, if funneled properly, if used properly, and given a clear vision. So
there has to be parameters.
Exactly. If I say, baby, like, here's the vision. This is where we're going. If we go this route, if we go the spending route, we're not going to get there in the time in which we've allotted, in which we've discussed. But if we go this route and we strategically we're strategically create an atmosphere for you to guide us in the area of enjoying it as we go, then we're going to have a blast getting to our goal. Because
listen, I want to go here real quickly because the way that you're just setting that type of vision, Charles, it sounds really great. And I think that there's some men that can definitely identify with that. But there are also some women out here. And I believe yesterday when we put up a post about, on Facebook about some of the topics that people wanted to discuss. And so a lot of times you might have, let's flip that to whereas the woman is the breadwinner. I know Alexis was speaking about that previously in one of her relationships where she was like more of the breadwinner. So in that space, Shonda, do you feel like that? Is it that the person who makes the most amount of money should do something like this, should set this vision? Does it matter? Should it be the woman versus the man? And I'm gonna kind of throw you on the spot real quick because different people feel differently in this area. The man is supposed to head this up, and then some women are like, "But wait, I make more. I can head this up." Where do you feel? Because that's a pull that we hear about a lot.
So let me finish bringing closure to Charles's statement.
Okay, sorry. Listen, my mind be gone. I'm sorry.
I love it. So with the spender, how you don't judge or how you avoid judgment is rather like he talked about. He landed it. He had the nail on the head. Is that you develop parameters of spending, right? You don't deprive. So, for example, instead of telling a spender that they can't spend because of the budget, spenders don't want to hear anything about no budget.
That's word.
Right?
That's real.
I don't even really prefer to use that term. I prefer to use a spending plan because,
I like that.
Right? Because a budget is really it's numbers on a sheet of paper or numbers on an Excel spreadsheet. However, a spending plan is your plan on how you're going to best spend your money or utilize your money. But needless to say, if Charles, being the investor and the saver, went to his wife and says, "Hey, babe, here's $2,000 for you to spend to get us all around London," she's going to be like, "Okay." Right? Now what he's just done is empowered her in her financial love language and creating that enjoyment. But he's also creating the collaboration. And I think that's where we often go astray and awry. So now to your question, Elam, which I did have it in mind. I was going to circle.
Oh yeah, that's juicy right there. You gotta get that juicy.
I was like, what was the question? Because now I forgot. That was good though, Charles. That was excellent.
Tell me your question again.
You want me to repeat my question? Okay, so
do you remember the question even?
Yeah, no. So yesterday on Facebook put up about, just some of the things that people wanted to hear about financially. And so the first one that popped up is that, hey, I'm making like $1 this and the guy is making like 30 or 40,000, right? Okay, so and she was more leading towards how do I it seemed like how are you able to still be secure within the relationship or whatever case it be, or some guys are intimidated. But my question was more in the direction because where Charles was going of creating that vision. And so when you have some people want to go traditional, whereas, okay, man, you create the vision for finances, all right? But then you also have some women out here that are shaking and moving. They're just like, well, I make just as much, if not more, or whatever. I want to set that vision. Like, what do you feel like that this is something that we should maybe more stick towards traditional, that men should look at it in that capacity? Because I'm trying to share this with the men, because most of the time it's more like we're supposed to do this. What do you feel as a leader in his home? How do you create that vision? Should it be you as a man to do it, or should it be just a smarter person in the area? What?
So I think here's an interesting question, right? How many people does it take to create a baby?
Right. Well, it depends on how you want those signs.
Stop it.
Okay.
Stop it, dog.
That was for the liberals out there.
It typically takes two. Would you guys agree?
Right.
How many people determine if they're going to enter into marriage?
Two. All right.
Two. So I think the question, I think our line of thinking as to who makes more is honestly irrelevant.
Come on.
The vision has to come between the two individuals. And so one of the ways that I start every consultation, and Elam, you can attest to this, I'm asking my individual clients or my couple clients, listen, if you were to look out in the next 3 years, what are the 3 most important financial goals that you want to attain?
Right.
What are the 3 most important personal goals that you want to attain? And then what are the 3 most important professional goals? And the reason why those are equally important is because they're all intimately tied together.
Right.
And that essentially begins to create the vision. Are y'all following where I'm going here? That creates the vision. So when I have a person who's in a relationship come to me and seek advice, if they're going to move forward with my advisement, with my coaching program, consulting program, then we have to base it on what they desire, but also I try to lean on, well, how would your spouse also respond? So that I can have some idea of the holistic picture, right? But in most cases, I don't even want to meet with one of the spouses because it's not singular vision. Right. It's collective.
So you're basically saying it's not, one person can't really create this. This has to be created by 2 people. And I think that's important because maybe sometimes people feel like it's an option. I have been in that situation where I'm just like, you better with dealing with money. I just tell me what I got to pay. Okay, bye. And I'm thinking, hey, I'm going to go get the bacon and here you write the check. Whereas, in her mind, I learned to understand that, no, she wanted me to become an active participant in that. And now you're bringing validation to that, to whereas this is finances, this is security. So men and women, you have to both be involved inside of that direction.
Absolutely. 2 quick stories. Recently had a young lady reach out to me over Instagram, and she said, Ashaunda, I've been following you for about 90 days, and I really like your content, your message, and your brand. And she says, I would like to work with you. And she scheduled an appointment. I asked if her spouse would be joining us. And he really was in the background, right? But as I began to hear him, meaning he wasn't in front of the camera, right? We were doing our virtual meeting, and but I heard him in the room. And so what I intentionally did was I called out his name and drew him into the conversation.
Okay.
He showed up to the next meeting, a willing participant, an active participant, fully engaged, playing full out, right? So now she's like, okay, the pressure is not on me to manage this. It's not on me to try to bring in the reins, right? He's seeing where together we can be and do more. So that's one couple. Another couple working with, you could tell that there was some serious tension in a relationship as it related to money. And unfortunately, he was the spender and she was the saver, but he did just what you said. He went to work, brought home the bacon, told her to cook it, fry it, dish it out, right? Distribute it to all the kids, but he didn't want to have anything to do with it. And all along the way, she's beginning to see where she is progressing and the household is progressing, sending their kids to school and all this totally on their dime, without any student loans. But yet he had amassed on his own some serious, significant credit card debt. He wiped it out. found himself right back in the same situation. And she's like, listen, I thought we'd be much further ahead than this. So there became frustration, right? But again, because they weren't speaking the same language, do you know he did not even understand really what a budget meant or looked like?
Oh, that's so critical.
And that's on the very basic level, while she was advanced into some other things. And so I had to get them on the same page in order for the vision to really come to light. And now they're working together significantly better than they were before.
I just have to identify something real quick. Hold on. She probably gonna snap at me, but Alexis, right now, like you got like the church mom look down right now. When you threw that little shawl over you, I was like, cute though. It's cute though. It's cute. The church mom look like Charles. What you just gonna let that sit there? You weren't gonna say nothing. Like,
no, I'm enjoying how her like hand is disappearing when she like moving. It's like hilarious.
Oh my God.
Background.
But I just had to, you know, I love you, Lex. So I had to. I think that the budget portion that you're going into, I want to make a highlight on that, is I think that that's very important for people to understand and hear again, that it takes two in this area. The analogies that you use about the marriage, the baby, and the same thing for the finance, it takes two, because sometimes, you know, you might think that, I don't know, you're thinking that the money should go in one direction and the other person thinking it's going to go another direction. And now you have strife that jumps in there. So this is something that you have to have two people involved. And what I'm also hearing from what Charles is saying is what makes the relationship even better is that you can walk into it knowing your space, whether you're the spender, whether you're the investor, whether you are the cheap frugal guy, you know, like you don't want nothing to go nowhere. You know? Is that a love language? Like I can be cheap. Like is cheap a love language? Is that?
You're the ultimate saver.
Okay, there you go. See, you can put the spin on it. That's the, you know, but that's real. And that can cause strife inside of the home. So, and I think we're probably going into part 2 already now, yeah. So we can take like a health check break or whatever. I thought that it would have ended by now. I don't know, but hey, before we go into the next step, you know, Shonda, there's a lot of pieces that you said. If you just want to let people know where they can follow you right now in your book and, you know, social media and all that stuff.
You got the Teddy Riley stuff going on today.
Right.
All of us are like,
you read about my show. You need to worry about your connection.
yeah, we totally
And I
missed
came
all of
outside,
that.
that was better. I'm sorry.
What was your question?
The Houdini app.
Okay, so you didn't hear nothing I said? Was it that
I
bad?
don't think either of us heard anything that she just asked.
That's bad. Where can they find you and your book and stuff like that? That's what.
I'm happy to share that. If only I heard that the first time. No, I'm joking. Sure. So you can definitely find me on my website, ashaundadavis.com, ASHAUNDA Davis.com. You can also find me on Instagram as AD the Financial Advisor. I'm sorry, AD _ the Financial Advisor. And you can always schedule a complimentary consultation. Just make sure that you mention the Understanding a Man podcast. And you can do that with my calendar link. It's www.meetme.so/Ashaunda Davis. meetme.so/Ashaunda Davis.
Cool beans. And we want to thank you so much for the nuggets that you dropped. But before we go, Alexis, where can they find you?
I am on Instagram at I am Miss Alexo. Twitter, The Real Miss Alexo, and I'm a part-time Facebooker, but you can find me at Alexis Williams. So.
Absolutely. And Charles, hey, I know you over there texting, bro. Where can they find you, bro?
And you find me on Facebook, Charles James. You'll see my funny looking face. And then if you go Instagram, it's @_ Charles in charge. Charles in charge on Instagram.
Hey, Charles, you got something coming out not too long from now, right? Should
Yeah. So I'm a musician first, a musician, a singer, and a songwriter. So I have a Mother's Day tribute and a record that's coming out May 1st.
I wrote it. Y'all. I wrote it. You know.
We don't
wrote
believe that. We don't believe that.
All right. And so, and we want to thank everybody that does sponsor and support us. You can make sure you hit the sponsorship button at the end to support as we continue towards our men's conference that's got moved to October 24th, and you'll hear more about that. And thank you to our subscribers as well. And we will talk to you in part 2 because we're not done, because we need to know what to do with the stimulus money. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's people already spent it by now. Shonda, I think they spent it all already. They did.
Yeah, coming in hot, just like the fajita. I write what I live, my life in the speaker.
Oh man. So all right, so we can do a part 2 real quick, and